Okay, so I am fairly buzzed, but spoilers, in case you live under a rock, Mayweather won, and I feel like I made a lot of good predictions. I feel like the one way I failed on the predictions was that Floyd's jab was going to be the catalyst to set up his lead right. Um, I thought that McGregor was going to square himself up a lot more because he usually gauges distance by his rear hand. But in almost every other way, I feel very validated because McGregor did force him to stand and fight, and man, fucking that was a good fight. McGregor made you think he could win, and they said the judges had Floyd on the scorecards for every single round. That's fucking ridiculous, because there was I think Floyd threw one punch the first round and McGregor landed consistently. But that's Vegas judges for you. That's just a thing with them, and everyone kind of knows about that. If you wanna win over Mayweather, everyone knows Castillo won over Mayweather. But if you wanna win with Vegas judges, you need to knock them out. I felt McGregor actually conserved his energy too much the first few rounds. I was expecting him to put some power into those punches, but man, he landed with the lead uppercut or two. And I said he should imitate that from Castillo's fight, and I said he should use his grappling to force Floyd to fight, and he fucking did. And that was a fight. I said it could be a battle, and it was a fucking battle. If you haven't watched that fight, find any way you can to watch that fight, because that was absolutely genius. Fucking Christ, that was amazing. I could not be more happy. I could not be more happy with that fight, because when all's said and done, I like both fighters, and I know I'll get a lot of shit in the comments for that, but I like Mayweather. His whole motivation is to make money and be the best at what he does up until now. But this fight, he felt he was gonna lose, and finally his ego kicked in. Finally, after 49 fights, he thought, "Fuck, I'm losing," and he's gonna play it off. He's going to play it off like, yeah, I wanted to give the fans a fight and let it last a few rounds. And he did let McGregor run his energy out a little bit. I thought McGregor would have more energy than that. I knew he was taking a break during the 7th and 8th round, and I was expecting him to take a break. But I wasn't expecting Floyd to ramp up like that. That was crazy. And like I called, the fight ended because of Floyd's lead rights. I said southpaws are susceptible to that. I said McGregor got hit repeatedly by lead rights with Chad Mendes. And what pissed me off is that after I put out my breakdown, and I know this probably had nothing to do with me, but Jack Slack said that Chad Mendes landing with so many lead rights and crowding McGregor was most likely due to his knee injury, which is bullshit. Anyone who knows anything about boxing, anything, knows that when you're in an open stance, which means one person is orthodox, one person is southpaw, doesn't matter who the fuck it is, which is which, that your rear hand is more likely to land. And that's just because your lead hand gets in the way more, and your rear hand has a more open exit. And Floyd massively proved that today. He picked him apart after McGregor lost. I thought McGregor was going to put more power into his punches. And here's the funny thing, is that McGregor was landing consistently during the first rounds. And if he had gone all out and put more power into his punches, then he could have rocked Mayweather, and he could have tired him out for those later few rounds. But he did a great job with body shots. I said that Floyd Mayweather may do body shots. I said that he may do body shots to McGregor, just jab, and then even his lead right to the body all day long whenever McGregor squared up. And then it was actually McGregor that did that, which just shows how fucking smart McGregor is. But as smart as McGregor is, Mayweather turned out to be smarter in this case. Or maybe not smarter, more experienced, It's one thing to rope a dope professional boxers. It's another thing to do to an MMA fighter. I noticed that McGregor, one thing he has trouble with is he's Taekwondo background, and I have the same trouble. I definitely have the same trouble, is he keeps straightening his legs when he punches. And that's fantastic if you're doing what McGregor normally does, which was lift his back leg high up into the air, straighten his lead leg, and it almost looks like a round off in gymnastics. He uses his back leg to put in power, but he chose not to do this because this is a boxing match. But he didn't sink down on his punches, And if you're in a boxing match, you need to sink down in your punches. It's the exact opposite. And I get more into that in my book. When you raise your center of mass, that's better for mobility. That's fantastic. But if you're going to do that, you need to do that to get an angle. And then you sink down on your punches, which McGregor just didn't. He didn't sink down really at all. Every punch he threw, his legs were just going up. His center of mass wasn't going down. He wasn't getting that stable base. And he wasn't pivoting like he normally does. And that's the one thing I thought he'd be able to bring in, which is that pivot. But I definitely called the grappling advantage to McGregor. He'd get behind him and start punching his kidneys, and the ref was absolutely fantastic in this fight. He let McGregor go after Mayweather, even after Mayweather let himself get turned around, I guess, and didn't try to return to face Conor. And I thought if Mayweather was going to get tagged and knocked out, it was when he did turn himself around to try to stay upright with Mayweather. But while the ref let McGregor get behind him and pound on his kidneys, he still broke it up, which pissed me off. Because it's like if McGregor's choosing to not pivot around and face him, then you don't break that shit up. You let McGregor keep pounding on him because that's Mayweather's fault to turn his body entirely around. Kidney punches are legal, that's true. But he wasn't punching the back of his head, and Mayweather was not making any effort to turn himself around. So I thought that was a loophole he exploited very well, and it's part of his boxing genius. Like I said in my podcast, he is good at exploiting the rules and knowing exactly where he can and cannot get away with shit. And he was good at that tonight. And that's not to take anything away from Mayweather. Mayweather put on an awesome performance in the later rounds. And like I said, McGregor forced him to stand and fight. And for a while, we had a battle, which is what I wanted. I wanted a round or two where it was a fucking battle, and we got that. We really got that. And Mayweather got to go out how he wanted. McGregor got to say he went 10 rounds with the greatest of a generation. And not only did Floyd Mayweather legitimize boxing, but Conor McGregor legitimized MMA. And it was fucking awesome. And if you didn't like that fight, then I don't know what the fuck to tell you, because that was an awesome fight. I could get if you were rooting for McGregor why you didn't like that fight. And to be totally honest, I was rooting for McGregor. And I get so many racial comments, I think I'm going to have to start deleting white versus black. The words white and black. I think I'm going to have to delete them. YouTube has a setting where you could choose, are these words allowed in comments? And what people are doing is they're saying racist shits on both sides. And I'd tell you if it was more one or the other, I honestly would. And I'm saying that as someone who's Irish and Jewish, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm either Native American or African American far enough, because the census they were black, but that could have been just because Native Americans could have been treated even worse than black people back then in the specific state, and I'm not sure. And I tell you this, so I feel like, honestly, I respect so many fighters of so many different races. I respect the hell out of Rocky Marciano, and I respect the hell out of Muhammad Ali, and those are my two favorite heavyweights of all time. And I don't have a dog in the race, but the fucking racial comments that some people, and I don't think that they're actual fans, and I don't think that they're definitely not actual boxers or MMA guys, but the casual racists who choose to turn this into a race thing, it's gotta fucking stop. But because I feel offended from both sides. I feel, and even if I didn't, it's stupid. If there's one thing that unites people, and I know this is going to sound weird. I know this is going to sound really weird. But if there's one thing that unites people, it's boxing or MMA matches. Because you realize that overall, everyone is human. Because you realize that everyone is vulnerable. Everyone is mortal. Everyone. And I know it's not the base fan or my base group that does that. But if you see something like that, please report it to YouTube. Because I want that shit the hell off my channel. That's ridiculous. But as two men, these guys faced each other, and Mayweather fought for the first time in a long time, and it was so glorious, and I could not be happier with this fight. I'll get into more in-depth stuff when I've seen the fight again, and I'm not so wasted, but I could not have been happier. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the fight. I hope you're not too bitter if you are from one side or the other. I hope you're not too ecstatic if Mayweather won, because yeah, you should be happy your guy won, but god damn, McGregor put on a good fight for how little experience he had in pro boxing. That really legitimized MMA in the same step it legitimized boxing. And I could not be happier for both sports because I love them so intensely, both of them. They're my more than kickboxing. Kickboxing is my third, and then grappling is my fourth. Wrestling is my fourth, actually, and then I guess jiu-jitsu is my fifth. And I love all of them, but definitely boxing and MMA. Boxing is so personal because it's the instincts. It's not your instinct to kick someone unless they're on the ground. It's your instinct to punch someone, right? If you ever get in a physical altercation or you want to, it's your instinct to punch them. And turning that into a sweet science is just philosophical and metaphorical and beautiful to me. And then MMA is so great because it combines all the different aspects. And I mean, it'd look way different if the rules were different. It'd look way different if everything was allowed. But you can't do that because then you turn into ancient Rome and all this shit. But I love them both so much. So I hope you guys love them too. I hope you enjoyed the fight. I'll be able to analyze it better and have more of a coherent view, and probably brag a lot less. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm bragging because I'm happy that I called certain aspects of the fight. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the fight because it was more than I'd ever hoped. I let myself get hyped. I let myself do that, but it was more than I ever hoped. Have a great day. Happy training.